As a recognized leader in embedded analytics, Yellowfin has been designed and built to enable you to embed amazing analytical experiences into your software. From a highly integrated dashboard module and self-service reporting, to enabling best practice integration that blurs the lines between analytics and your application and workflows. Modernize your reporting environment with Yellowfin to ensure your customers engage with your data, discover insights faster through automation, and innovate with contextualized analytics.
Thanks for tuning in to the Product-Led Festival. We really hope you're enjoying the summit so far because we've got even more insights heading your way. All sessions are designed to be interactive and give you the chance to engage with our panelists, so come ready to get involved with your questions and comments. For all things PLG, don't forget to check on the PLA memberships at productledalliance.com. Sit back and enjoy the next session. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Product-Led Festival. Thank you for tuning into this session. I'm really pleased to announce our next speaker, Daniel Shimoni, who is Head of Product at Lusha.com. He'll be doing a talk for us on how to leverage customer feedback to build great products. Over to you, Daniel.
Hey everybody. Caitlin, can you see my screen properly?
Yep, all good.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Daniel Shimoni, and today I'll be talking with you about how you can leverage customer feedback in order to build great products. Obviously, this is a pretty broad subject, so we'll try to get the most out of the 20 minutes or so we have for us today. We'll take a look at some of the more fundamental things, such as how you can even initiate calls, how to arrive prepared for the calls, and how to conduct them. But we'll also touch on more advanced things, such as arriving to these calls with correct mindset and what this mindset is, what are the cues you should be after, and also how to leverage the feedback from your customers throughout the product lifecycle. So why are you here? Well, for starters, because you sign up for this program, but hopefully because you want to learn how to build great products, and also because you understand that talking with users is a very big part in building great products. What I want to make sure you get out of this presentation with is to learn to not be this person. And if you can't see what's written on the search bar, it says what I want to be true. I've noticed that many people who conduct calls with customers tend to be so convinced of what they want to build that they almost adjust what people tell them to fit a certain narrative. And it typically leads to making poor business decisions. The calls with the customers are almost a formality. If I have to be honest, in the past, I probably used to do it too. But once I've realized that this is resulting in very poor decisions, I started to learn that I have to challenge my ideas. And if I really have to give a theme to this call is learning to challenge your ideas, because this is the key to building great products with your customers. So a little bit about me. I'm Daniel Shimoni. Today I lead Lusha's customer-facing products as head of product. Lusha is a B2B sales insights and intelligence company. It's a B2B company and we're a product-led company. So many of the challenges that we deal with require close communication with our customers and learning from them what they actually need us to help them with. Before working at Lusha, I worked as a product marketing manager at the hospitality startup Selina. At Selina, I owned the company's websites and apps backlog and was in charge of their conversion rate optimization efforts. And before working at Selina, I co-founded my own startup in the field of content management. Working on my own startup has definitely been one of the most significant experiences for me as far as learning to build new products, because it helped me experience many different aspects of building products. So I've spent a lot of time talking with users, and what I've learned is that there are three fundamental truths. The first thing is that talking with users is the single most important thing to do when you're building a product. If you think of every great product that you know, customer feedback is at the root of it. You simply can't build a product people care for without first learning from your users if this is something that they would need, and if it addresses a problem that they have. In many ways, customer feedback is product discovery. I'm sure many of you read books that talk about product discovery in recent years. And if there's one common theme in all of them, is how important it is to speak with customers as you're trying to find what to build. The second thing is that to get the most out of customer feedback calls, you must be willing to go deep. Here, what I'm trying to make clear is that you need to make the distinction. It's not about speaking with customers. It's about really trying to go deep and being meticulous and thorough when you're validating your ideas. If you arrive to a customer call with a list of generic questions that you're just trying to get, almost check them off a list, you end up building uninspiring products. And if you really go deep, you are working on steps that will help you build a relationship with the people you are speaking with as you're doing your discovery process. And this allows you to basically get them on board as your design partners and to give you live feedback as you're working on your product. So it's a really, really important distinction. Finally, speaking with users is a skill every customer-facing product manager must master. There really is no other way around it. If you're not confident in your ability to speak with users, you really should work on this skill because it's essential for building great products. And if you are not really speaking with users because you're afraid that you're not very good at this, then you're missing out on a lot of opportunities to learn what your users truly need. Another important distinction that I really want to make, that it's not simply about talking with users. It's about talking with the right users. And how do you find the right users? I think that there are three really accessible sources or ways that you can find these users. The first is simply looking at usage data, essentially looking at how your existing users are engaging with your product. And those who are doing things that are relevant for what you're trying to learn, getting their emails and scheduling calls with them. Obviously, not everyone will be able to jump on a call with you, but even if you reach out to 100 users and you have 20 people schedule a call with you, it will be very, very helpful for you. The second thing is by creating triggers within the product that will prompt people to jump on a call with you whenever they're taking an action that is relevant for what you're trying to learn. This could be as simple as creating smoke tests that when people click on a button, prompts a chat link or a calendar link that will help them schedule a call with you. And will be very, very aimed at what you're specifically trying to learn. And finally, and this is something that I've noticed many product people don't really leverage, is collaborating with your sales organization and directing relevant users to you. So your sales and customer success teams speak with customers all the time. And if you share with them what it is that you're trying to learn, what are the products that you're conducting discovery for, if they speak with people who might be interested in what you want to learn or are looking for features such as what you're trying to build, they can simply refer them to you. And this could be a great resource for you, especially because these are typically heavier or more bigger accounts that might have many users. It is important to say that you might need to provide users with an incentive of sorts to jump on a call with you. But you'll be amazed by how many people will still jump on a call simply because they are interested in what you're trying to do. They already like your product and just want to be helpful. Okay, so we talked a bit about finding the right users. Now, how do you prepare for this call? It really is important to understand that this is a process of continuous refinement. You start off by examining user data. So if you're trying to build a product, you want to speak with users about a specific thing, it starts with data of sorts. If it's for a brand new product, it might be something that you've learned from your competitors, a feature request, even just something that you're curious about and you're gathering this data for. And if this is data for something that already exists in your product, then you can simply look at this data. And this data leads you to developing a hypothesis. Everything that you do needs to be based on this hypothesis. The questions that you ask must be based on it. As you're speaking with users, you're learning more things, you're getting more data, and you need to refine your learnings to make sure that when you're speaking with more users, what you are trying to achieve is based on what you've already learned. You need to remember that the key part of this is to challenge your ideas, as I mentioned before. So if you're starting to speak with users and you're figuring out that what you were aiming to learn is actually not that relevant for them, or it could be relevant, but you just need to look from a different perspective, challenge it, refine your question, make sure that the next call that you go to is much more in tune with what you've learned previously. Conducting the call is a very challenging process, I think, but it's once you master it, really is something that I typically enjoy doing. So there are several things that I think are very important to make sure that you do before you jump on a call or as you conduct the call. And the first thing is that you should never go solo. You should have at least one person joining you on the call. My ideal setup for a call is a product manager, a designer, an engineering team leader, and a product analyst if you have one. The reason is that it gives you a very broad perspective on the different things that you might want to learn about the problem, about the product, and to give you different viewpoints and angles about how easy or challenging it might be to develop a solution for this, what resources you have available to you already. So just make sure that you don't jump on a call by yourself. The second thing is setting a container. By setting a container, what I mean is that you are setting guidelines and basically coming into agreements with the person you're talking with, making sure that you're all on the same page. There are some steps you can take in order to set a container. One of them is to simply tell the person who you are, who your team members are. You need to share with the user what you're aiming to learn. It's actually a very interesting thing that many people talk with users, but they never really tell them what they're trying to learn in the call. If you tell your user what you're trying to learn, they will be much more able to direct you with things that are relevant. You need to be clear with the user how long this call is going to take. If you suspect you might need some more time, you need to ask them if they're willing to stay on the call for a few more minutes. It really is, again, about setting agreements with the person you're speaking with. You should ask for permission to record the call. I don't know how many of you use Zoom. I'm guessing many, but I personally find it extremely intrusive when I suddenly hear that this call is being recorded without anyone ever asking me. So it's the same with users. They want to be asked. It's just a respectful thing to do. And finally, you need to be asking them for permission to stay in touch after you conduct the call with them. This is all part of the container. You should learn to ask open-ended questions. That's the third thing you should focus on. If you ask yes, no questions, you will get very flat answers. So you need to learn to ask them questions that allow them to express themselves very vividly. You should focus on asking users to explain to you how they're trying to do something, why what they're experiencing isn't clear to them. So making sure that you focus on allowing them to be very, very vivid is huge in finding things that can be helpful for you when you're building the product. If possible, ask users to show you how they solve a problem today. So if this is something that already happens in your product, ask them to share the screen. It will be much more helpful for you than asking them to explain to you or sort of demonstrate in a way that isn't with their screen. And if it's for something that you don't have a product for, but you're just trying to understand how they address the problem today, then ask them to show you. Maybe they're not doing it even with a product, or they're just doing it in a completely old-fashioned way. You could disrupt it and build great products for it. And the last point about conducting a call, this is more something that you should aim for. It's aiming to build a relationship with them. When you build a relationship with a customer, you get them on board for many more things that you want to learn. You can have them as your design partners. You could ask them questions later. If they care about what you're trying to do, they might even reach out to you by themselves, which is not an obvious thing, having people reach out to you and asking you questions about things that you are doing that could be relevant. The correct mindset for customer feedback calls and for this entire process is to learn for evidence that you're wrong. I know this might seem counterintuitive at first, but if you're looking for evidence that you're wrong, and instead what you're finding are evidence that you actually are right, it makes your case so much stronger. It gives you a lot more confidence that you're building the right product. It also will help you prevent a situation where you are wasting time building things nobody cares for. Adapting this mindset is something that I think I picked up when I was building my own product, when I built my own company, and it served me very, very well. It really helped me avoid some big mistakes, and I still do it today. It's just a great, great tool. If there's one thing I really hope any of you will take out of this call is this mindset, because it's huge. Another important thing that I want to cover is how to approach customer feedback throughout the product lifecycle. Because user feedback is leveraged throughout the entire process, and you need to make sure that you approach each step in the way that will get you the most out of the customers that you're speaking with. So before you build a product, your focus is on validating your idea. But before even you validate your idea, you need to validate that you're solving a problem that people care about. You need to answer two big questions. Is this a problem worth solving? And if it is, are we heading towards the correct solution? So once you've validated that the problem is relevant, that people care about, this is something that bothers them, you need to figure out what is the correct way to do it. How do you solve it? Finding the correct way to solve a problem is something that we would typically do by creating prototypes and product concept and running them through users. There are many great resources about how to validate an idea. But the bigger thing to learn to do is making sure that the problem is worth solving. And the biggest cue for you when you're trying to learn if a problem is worth solving is listen for what your users hate to do. A strong signal that there's a problem that is worth solving is the language the people you're speaking with use to describe it. If you pay attention to what they hate to do, and again, well, not again, but in general, it's not that they will necessarily tell you, I hate doing something. It's something you can infer from the language that they use about the process or an action that they take. If you address a problem that really bothers them, it dramatically increases the potential for success. And it might seem like you don't really use this sort of language, but you will be amazed once you go deep with a customer and really pay attention to what is the problem that you're trying to address. If it really bothers them, you'll get the sense that this is something that they hate. During the development stage of a product, you focus on course correction, and you're primarily trying to address the answer that lets you know that you're building the right product still. At this point, you probably are speaking with the customers at the stage where you have like a functional version of your product. It's not immediately. And if you've done previous steps correctly and you've developed a community of design partners or people who you can show the initial product to, then you have people who can give you very valuable feedback that will give you the sort of assurances that you need that the product is on the right direction and that you are getting close to a point where you can launch it. It will also allow you to learn what are the things that you might have missed and let you fix issues before you show the product to your entire user base. But again, for me, mostly this stage is about getting the assurances that I need that the product is in the right direction to be launched, because you don't want to launch a product to your entire user base that is completely off the mark. Once you are done developing the product and you've launched it, you focus on optimizing it. You really need to ask yourself some tough questions such as, is this product meeting its business objectives? And if not, what can you do to improve it? At this stage, you need to be very pragmatic and honest about whether or not your product is meeting its objectives. Obviously, there's a spectrum of how well a release of a product goes, but the reality is it typically goes in two different ways. I mean, obviously, this varies from product to product. Typically, once you release a product, it's either on course to meet its KPIs. It's not necessarily a huge hit from day one. You launched it, it looks kind of good. Now you need to sort of make sure that things are staying positive. And the second thing that very often happens is that you launch a product and there's no engagement. Like, it's just some users, not as many as you thought. And now you sort of need to figure out what's happening, so some sort of damage control. If a product isn't really doing as well as you want it to after you've launched, you need to go into pretty much a researcher mode to figure out why. You need to speak with many users, and you need to figure out why people who are engaging with a product are not really going all the way with it, and trying to understand from them what's missing, what else can be improved. And if people are not even aware of the product, you need to understand why is there an awareness issue for the product. You need to speak with users and ask them to almost run you through why they're missing the product, why something isn't happening in the way that you intended them to. So it really is about being very pragmatic and trying to figure out everything that you've got wrong. This can happen even if you are doing the previous steps very well. The reality is we're not working in an exact science sort of environment. Things can go wrong. So we just need to have a plan for what we do if things don't really happen the way we want them to. In the scenario where things are going well, you should still speak with users, because even if you've launched a product and it seems to be going well, there are still things that you might have missed that could be improved. There are still flows that might be a bit unclear to your users. So jump on calls with customers. Try to figure out ways that you can optimize the product. Get a sense from your users what's missing so you could improve the product even further. It is something that is really helpful. Obviously, you launch a product, it's not done there. It's an entire process until you reach product market fit. So even if it's doing well, talk with as many users as you can. Finally, your users are your source of truth. User feedback, in my opinion, is, again, in the roots of every great product. The reason for me that it makes it so much, the reason why it's so important to me is because even if I have a lot of data that I can use, once I speak with customers, it simply brings the data to life. It completes the story. I speak with a customer after I've viewed graphs and trends and things that are very cold, very analytical, but we're not building products for our computers. We're building products for people, and people really make it real. So you take the data, you speak with a customer, they tell you what your product makes them feel, and it's something that is basically at the root of every great product, as I mentioned. And in my opinion, the better you become at speaking with users, the better you will become at figuring out what problems need to be addressed, and it will make you a much better product manager or product person. Thank you. Can you hear me still? Okay, we have about 10 minutes for questions, right? Well, I can start answering questions, Caitlin, while we're trying to figure out your sound issue. So Alice asked, what is a good way to store the feedback that you gather? You can quantify it by sort of creating, sort of like even take a survey and store the questions, and then you can sort of look at it in a accumulated way. But even simply creating a form where you store all of your feedback from customers. What are the key takeaways? What are the things that you want to learn? What do you want to refine for the next call? It's a great way to do it. Obviously, you want to have a way that people can access it from across the company or across the delivery team. But you don't even need to complicate it too much, as long as there's an easy way to review it. I hope that helped. Valerie asked, besides getting team members onto calls, how do you ensure share of mind with the rest of the company efficiently in relation to user understanding? So I'm a big believer in knowledge sharing. I think it's important that once you've conducted a call, especially if it's a meaningful call with a customer when there is a big project that you're trying to work towards, share with everybody who's relevant what you've learned. Just share with them, even if it's random. We've worked on a pretty big project here earlier this year, and I was amazed by how many engineers were completely blown away by the feedback that we share with customers. People who are working on a different team simply because they wanted to learn what's really going on and not just what they're seeing in staging or production. So just take key notes from each call and share it with as many people as possible. You'll be amazed at what it does to your engineering team. It's also crucial that you bring the engineering team closer to the business, and this is a great way to do it. Rachel asked about synthesizing the results. Honestly, this is something that I've always challenged myself to think, what is the best way? At a certain point, I was trying to say, I mentioned before, sort of create a survey with the most common things we were learning, trying to get like a trend. It wasn't super helpful. So once I realized that it wasn't working so well for us, we were just trying to see how many times certain things came up just by looking at them call after call. And once we saw patterns, we'd just highlight them and follow through them on other calls and other things we're doing. How LM asked about validating the importance of the customer call and their feedback. So this is not something that always works perfectly, LM. The reason is that sometimes you might have a customer who you're speaking with, kind of slip through the cracks, doesn't really use the product. I try to look at this from a holistic view. So if I am speaking with a customer who's asking me questions about something that's not even relevant for what I'm working on, then I'll still try to sort of, if I know what other teams in the product unit are curious about, I'll try to get some things that are relevant for them. And then what I'll do is I'll ask the customer if they'll be willing to jump on another call with my team. And then I just refer them to a more relevant PM. And this would be an easy way to do it. But again, it's about being very honest with the people you're speaking with.
Can you hear me now, Daniel?
Yes, I can.
Great. I'm so sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. Where did you get to on questions? Sorry.
I finished with LM's question.
Great. Okay, cool. So I've got time for a couple more. So we've got one from Teresa Roy, who has asked, admin of customer research can quickly take over. How do you manage all the administrative tasks, scheduling calendars, storing feedback, paying incentives, etc.? Are there tools you recommend?
So this depends on how big your company is, I guess, and how many people work, how many PMs work on the same product. If you're working in a medium-sized company, typically there will be 1 or 2 PMs working on a product. So the PM who is trying to conduct a certain task, a certain discovery process, you simply create a Calendly or any other scheduling tool that you are using. You just create an event that only contains the 2 of them. It's connected only to their calendars. And then the calls will fall to either one of them. It's really easy. Storing the feedback, I've mentioned this before. Just take notes on even a Google Doc. Make sure people have access to it. Paying incentives, not all the time you might need to use paying incentives. People typically use Amazon gift cards. This is what I would typically do. But with companies like today, I work at Lucia, and many of the users that we have want to be incentivized by our internal economy. It's called credits. They use it, so I simply give them credits. This is what they want, more than an Amazon gift card. But it depends on your product, I guess. But it's something that is you can easily find these solutions. If it's an enterprise client, give them like a week for free. I don't know, something like that.
Thanks, Daniel. I have one more from Merdi, who's asked, on the other hand, any tips on how to get constructive customer feedback from other departments, such as sales and customer success?
I mentioned this during the call. This is something that, and again, I'm amazed by how few PMs truly utilize these departments. If you tell sales and customer success what you're trying to build, so typically we're conducting a lot of these processes towards the next quarter, right? You're learning from customers because you want to build something in Q1, Q2. This is a process. If you tell the people who are engaging with customers all the time, this is what we were working towards because this is what we want to build in Q1. If you hear anything from any customer, please refer them to me. Then they would simply refer them to me because this also makes them look great. Think how good a customer success manager looks to a client if they schedule a call with a PM who's looking to learn from them about a feature that they requested. This is a win-win. This is definitely something you should leverage.
Great, thank you. That's brought us up to time. There are a few more questions in the chat, but unfortunately we have run out of time. You can connect with Daniel via the Connect with Daniel link in the chat box. So I'm sure you can send him over a few questions if yours has not been answered. Thank you very much, Daniel, for your presentation today. I think it was very well received from the amount of questions we've had in the chat. Apologies again for my tech troubles.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Stay with us. We've got our next session up in 15 minutes. So see you all soon. Thank you, everyone.